Mirrors and Dreams, Book 2 of the Unseen Scar series, written and narrated by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 1. They could have died, would have died, if not for Oya. My incompetence nearly killed them. The package was small, not even the length of his palm, yet the challenge was overwhelming. 2 forced healings in 2 months left Ferdinand's body depleted. Weakness and fatigue followed him everywhere, but his injuries were nothing next to his apprentice's. What are weeks' worth of daily healings doing to Yu? Elby's hands. Most of the damage was healed, but they were still being treated. Even fixed, what'll be the long-term repercussions? How much have I limited them both? Such grand, monstrous things you've accomplished. Monstrous? Did that come close to describing his sins? The countless names of those he failed bubbled up, taking over his mind. As he had for months now, Ferdinan clenched his jaw and waited for the memory to pass. There was no stopping them or that voice. But he'd found a bandage of sorts for one of them. Crossing the room, he inserted a small earpiece and tapped it. Forbidden music from Oya's cube shielded against that voice. Oya. She hadn't visited him much recently. Is she sick of me because I'm so weak? Did she finally make friends? Screaming metallic notes filled his ear, magnifying the sting of that thought. I never should have called her friend. I was wrong, forcing my desires on her. His face twisted. The wrapper's crinkling brought his attention back to the little bar. His stomach corkscrewed. Green tinged his lips. The histories. He looked at the screen containing all the information from Oya's cube. However, when he picked it up, it felt like he was being lectured. Like the histories themselves were upset with him, with his progress. The odd comfort he usually got when reading through the seemingly infinite information wasn't there when he turned on the screen, nor when he scrolled through the amazing treasure. Neither did anything he recognized come into view. Normally he couldn't not find something he was thinking about, but now not even languages he knew appeared. Sighing, he looked back at the bar. It mocked him. Opening the little package made him gag. Nutrition Bar was a misleading name. It was more of a supercharged multivitamin. Nutrition values, taste, calories, how long they took to bake. Ferdinan knew everything about them. These were his, and made to suit his taste, unlike the more calorie-intensive version he'd created for a general palate. Is this the best I can do? A tinkerer focused on medical products couldn't make these any smaller or easier to eat. The bar hovered above his lips. 1 bite, 2 for politeness. But Ferdinand's free hand clenched into a fist. He chewed his lip. Forcing it past his teeth, the skeleton compelled himself to bite down. Drums filled his ears, emphasizing how full his mouth felt. Was chewing even possible? Looking down, barely 1/8 of it was gone. Gagging, he forced his jaw to move. I deserve worse than this. A burnt, half-crushed Yu filled his mind. I deserve so much worse. He couldn't visit her. The healers refused to tell him anything, though he was a student, not her guardian. But her first 2 years on the islands, he was her mentor. But he was too much of a coward to travel to isolation to check on her, so what right did he have to any information? A revolting mush filled his mouth, blocking his throat. Swallow. His first attempt failed. How could something so disgusting be enjoyable, or considered integral to social activities? His second try came during an uncomfortably long lull between songs. Pathetic. How are you still alive? The intrusion made him choke. Violent coughing set every nerve in his healing body aflame. The choice was allowing it into his belly, or risk choking again. Seeing the remaining amount left, Ferdinan paled, but he repeated the process. I have to find something better than music to keep that voice under control. During an epic battle with the 3rd bite, the skeleton found himself face to face with an intruder. What are you doing? John raised an eyebrow. Lobster red, Ferdinan turned away, hiding the uneaten portion of the bar. It's rude entering unannounced. You weren't answering. Did you turn off the chime? Ferdinan blushed harder. No, he hadn't. Between the music and the focus required for this task. What do you want? Snack time. But you're eating? A darker shade of red flooded his face, making him dizzy. If you're already eating, then what is it? The swaying room forced Ferdinan to sit. Nutrition bar. Surprise held John in place while he considered those 2 words. I've got to see it. See what? Frowning, John shrugged off the unappreciated snideness. The bar. What kind do you like? Purpling, then suddenly paling, left Ferdinan feeling more ill. It doesn't matter. What did you bring? As long as you're eating, it's fine. You made it. Ferdinan didn't care. He just didn't want any more attention from the school. That's never stopped you. Uncertainly, John laid the plate in front of Ferdinan. Closing crystal blue eyes, the skeleton forced down a cringe. The situation was offensive, but, minus the sauce, The food wasn't disagreeable. What will they demand next? And when? If not for healing from the fire, Ferdinan was certain they'd already have laid out more demands. Hopefully, appearing cooperative would keep them at bay for a while. Thank you. John let out a breath of relief and stepped back. Is there anything you want or need? No, thank you. This is more than sufficient. Then, how are you feeling? Your skin? Silence fell. Both boys averted their eyes. Between your brother and the cream you made, it's healing well. Gaze fixed on the window, Ferdinand hid his face. Are you still in pain? I'm not comfortable. Nodding silently, John looked away. That's better than before. Yeah. Awkwardness paralyzed them both. At least the music offered a strange kind of comfort. If only he could run. Please leave me alone. Chocolate brown eyes searched for a clock. Oh. What? Sorry, I have a meeting with Healer Bear today, and, jumping up, John asked one last question. What sort of official business could Zhao have with me? A small smirk tugged at Ferdinand's thin lips. He knew. John earned his lab over a year ago. Still, the skeleton decided to be mean. Could be anything, knowing Zhao Zi. Strong, golden hand shifted from defense to offense, thumb of the forward hand tapping the ring finger 3 times. What? I'm not ready to defend yet. Time in quarantine left Zephyr rusty. Even his apprentices could beat him now. Against Captain Rhetoric, he had no chance. Rhetoric flew before the Golden Prince could breathe. The first strike was slow. He's going easy on me. This annoyed the athlete. Taking the charity, Zephyr blocked it with relative ease. A few more easy strikes came. Then the warm-up started. Even with his lifelong mentor and second father going easy on him, the prince was coated in sweat and panting hard. The beatdown didn't let up. Zephyr's time in that torture aside, Rhetoric was stronger with significantly more years of experience. The man was a true fighter. One narrow miss after another. With each, the man moved a little faster until one hit solidly in the gut. Stunned, unable to breathe, Zephyr staggered. Move! Even at their best, an athlete couldn't stand against a fighter in combat, especially one with decades on him. Multiple personal trainers, countless hours practicing, it didn't matter. He'd never win. Losing to Rhetoric wasn't usually bitter. It was worth it for the rare occasions he landed a strike or surprised the man. But right now, he felt disgusted. Why didn't I fully inherit Mom's mutation? A boulder masquerading as a fist grazed his cheek. Yet Rhetoric wasn't going half as hard as he could. I'll never be good enough for him to fight me seriously. His eyes couldn't even keep up with the captain's, his mom's, and Aunt Tenalia's movements when they fought each other. Feet that'd been on the ground were in the air. Zephyr's back hit the hard floor, stunning him. Padded or not, everything felt like granite when rammed into it by a trained fighter. I'll never succeed, will I? He knew this thought was wrong, but seeing what his mom, aunt, and the captain could do, not inheriting the secondary trait of his mother's mutation, condemned him to failure at birth. Worse, Zephyr was the last born of the original line of fighters, the main family. Why did I end the line? Staying down was tempting. How many times has Rhetoric bested me this session? I'm only getting worse. The lie athletes told themselves grew poignant in the prince's mind. With enough hard work and training, no one would notice the difference. This lie kept athletes striving for fighters' skills and knowledge, all to fulfill their positions in life. I don't want to move, but it's my duty. Zephyr rolled to his side and forced himself back to his feet. The moment he dropped into a defensive stance, Rhetoric charged again. I wish that lie was true. Then he might have a chance. But no amount of hard work would allow him to overcome. It was the same for all abilities. No artist could best a weaver at wordsmithing, no telepath could best a mind talker at mind delving, no healer could best an energist at mass energy manipulation, no thinker would best a tinkerer at creating, and no athlete would best a fighter at combat. One fist landed, then another. Zephyr couldn't breathe. It wasn't a matter of drive, ambition, or will. Another fist came, grazing his shoulder. Some things were simply impossible due to circumstances of birth. Another came. The prince jumped back. It didn't land solidly, but it still stole his breath. A heel rammed between his ribs and hip. Ah! Zephyr stumbled, but it knocked him out of those less than helpful thoughts. What am I doing? All abilities have an edge. Breathing deep, Zephyr dropped into his defensive stance once again. Only, he didn't maintain it. By the time Rhetoric realized, the man was already flying forward. Knowing coal eyes watched the Golden Prince advance. The first strike was a test. Zephyr knew this, but cartwheeled to the side anyway. A thickly muscled leg swung at him, and he rolled toward it, flattening himself to let it pass overhead before popping back up and leaping to his feet. With each attack, he dodged and weaved in an erratic dance. But it wouldn't last long. A battle between a fighter and an athlete was ultimately a game of attrition. Athletes had more stamina, could run longer distances, and change directions more swiftly. Fighters didn't expend as much energy, could process details more effectively, and strike faster. If this were a fight for survival, the prince would have bolted. But this was training. Minutes passed as seconds. Many strikes landed, but the prince dodged more than before. Don't look at me like that. I know I'm cheating. This was training, not real life. If he wanted to improve, he needed to train like a fighter, not an athlete. But he was tired of being inferior. All movement stopped. Captain Rhetoric dropped into a defensive position Zephyr had never broken and gestured, attack. Onyx's eyes widened over a golden grin. A second chance. I'm sorry, I'll do it right this time. The prince leapt forward. Blow after blow, high, low, front, back, feint, and so forth. Nothing breached the impenetrable fortress of Captain Rhetoric. The closest he came was when he grazed the man's collar, revealing a barely hidden circular birthmark. Not once did the man flinch. Rhetoric waited patiently for Zephyr to wear himself out, blocking his attacks as if shooing away an annoying fly. I'll never win. Something filled his lungs and strangled his heart. It wasn't only this fight. He just wasn't capable of winning. If he was... The elf's words echoed through his mind, making him grimace. Whatever that elf was, a dream, a delusion, a warped part of his own mind, it wasn't apologetic in the... Rhetoric's hand landed on his chest and bodily threw him into the ground. Even if he wanted to get back up, neither his body nor the captain was about to let him. Strong hands pointed at Zephyr before crossing and swiping away. Rhetoric tapped the golden prince's forehead and rotated his hand forward and back. Panting, dazed, Onyx's eyes closed. His second father pulled him up to sit. Sheepishly, he looked at the man. Palm down, he sliced back and forth through the air before tapping the side of his head. Nothing's on my mind. I'm just fighting. Thick fingers pinched together at the tips before a thumb was thrown over his shoulder. I'm not obsessing. The prince's head dropped. Hands danced in time with Zephyr's mumbled apology. What Rhetoric was asking him, admitting his thoughts would only worry his family more. He'd put them through enough the last couple of months, but the man wouldn't let him up until he talked. The elf. Zephyr swallowed hard. Telling a Chuzite about her wasn't advisable. A warrior from the Grasslands royal tribe. I'm sorry. I keep having the same dream. Rhetoric's palm rotated from facing the prince to facing himself. Flushed cheeks deepened. The dream was completely ridiculous. The captain drew Zephyr's eyes to him. Fist over his heart, Rhetoric raised an eyebrow in challenge. No, this man's loyalty was to him first and foremost. Rhetoric was the one he could speak freely to without reservation. But is talking about her a mistake, after finally escaping quarantine? He took too long thinking. The captain's weight pinned Zephyr's chest to the ground. A finger tapped the side of his mouth before pointing to the prince. A high-pitched "can't" escaped his lips before signaling his surrender. One swift motion and the man was kneeling beside him. Using both Uchiyo and the grassland sign was habit for Zephyr. Every night, the same dream. A woman comes and asks why I'm angry. Oof. Oya fell back, landing on nothing. Above was a torn and tattered net, and beyond that, a magnificent galaxy of light and thought and brilliance in total disarray. Are you still there, young one? Yes, echoed in the disrupted galaxy beyond the torn net. Yuya's getting louder, but she'd yet to see the girl. Neither had the galaxy above returned to any semblance of order. A smirk glowed under inhuman green eyes. Countless frayed ends swayed, waiting. Back to work. Oya jumped to her feet and slowly turned. A once orderly mesh now draped chaotically. The brain's more fascinating than I realized. She didn't know how many countless hours she'd spent roaming various minds, but this was the first brain. And even from here she could see the mind beyond. Which one next? Most of the small holes were repaired, but the largest one, the one causing the most trouble, mocked her. Every time alien green eyes caught sight of it, Oya wanted to stop and fix it. But the smaller holes were better for practicing, and there was less damage she could cause with the little ones. Still, I need to fix it. Confidence wasn't something Oya lacked, generally speaking, but if she didn't fix that big hole right, it'll kill him if she doesn't wake up the same. And not just her dear friend, but many others on and off the islands. But it wasn't a matter of simply reconnecting the ends like most of the other holes. Large portions of the net were missing or frayed beyond repair. She'd have to completely rework that section of net. Her head turned side to side, looking for the other significant hole. It's getting closer, young one. Thank you. I don't like it here. Unlike the giant hole, the one Oya approached was barely large enough for her to slip through. Well, let's see what I can do. Golden brown hands ran over every break. Words. Oya blinked. The other holes were mostly disrupted memories. Why can she talk to me in here if this part is damaged? Reaching past the tear, faces. Some Oya knew. Many she didn't. Her own was among them. Faces? Why would words connect to faces? And not some words. All. Any face with one word connected had them all. I don't understand. Reaching past the faces were emotions. No, just one emotion. One Oya wasn't sure how to describe. It was something between trust and understanding, and another thing. It was like the emotion tied to the sense of familiarity, not the pleasant or pain of the familiar, just the existence. That strange connectedness that holds no opinion either way. Once again she brought her hands to the broken ends, and once again all she found were words. Why are words here? There were no experts on the brain or mind, not anymore. But Oya was certain this wasn't right. Wouldn't all emotions be connected to people before words? And wouldn't words be connected to general knowledge, or even the body? Why faces? That left the giant hole. If that one didn't make sense, Oya would definitely be in trouble. Walking over, she shook her head and reached out. Restoring a single path between memories was simple, but the hole broken between faces and words, and this monstrosity, were much deeper. Delicate fingers took hold of broken ends. A world full of knowledge sucker-punched her. Knowledge whole, broken, and incomplete. Letting go, Oya stood frozen for a moment. Words and faces made more sense, but she didn't have to understand what she saw, just how to reconnect it. Breathing in deep, she reached out again and took hold. There was so much, it was dizzying. Push past. What does it connect to? How long she stood there, Oya didn't know, but she found some semblance of understanding. That first hole, though. I know it's early, young one, but there's something I need to check. I'll return soon. Please no, it's dark and lonely. I know, but if I stay, you'll never escape the dark. You'll never hold those you love. Please don't be long. I'll return at the same time I always do. Closing her eyes, Oya brought herself into focus. When she opened them, she was sitting on Yu-Yu's bed. The adorable girl laid perfectly still. Tight dark curls stood starkly against the pillow. A strange piece of metal blinked on her forehead. Tubes came and went from the small body. I'll figure it out, young one.